Oh my god. The woes of recording things from home. Well, looks like we might be doing that for a bit longer. Happy New Year, and it was all a dream. It wasn't. And I'm fully aware that right now I'm competing with the Scarecrow that's running the UK, who is making an announcement probably about the fact that we're going to be going into tier 17 tomorrow and we're all going to be locked down. But I'm still here. And if you're new here, welcome to the team. Welcome to the Monday Night Crew. This is I, Michelle from Skins, where I talk to people about being associated with a character or a time in their life. So welcome. You're all very welcome here in my house, which sounds like my neighbours upstairs are, I don't know, playing bowls or something. So hi. Hello everyone. How are you all? How's it going? Welcome to 2021. How are we feeling? The same? Me too. I feel slightly like one of those memes which is like how it started and then how it's going, because I'm wearing a hoodie, although I am representing. And like, I think my first episode I was wearing a full pink suit. But we've got to do what we've got to do, right? You know. I'm also tonight drinking a Virgin Mary because of Dry January, which I think as of tomorrow is going to completely go out the window. Looks kind of gross. Is great. Although I do keep getting bits of horseradish stuck in the straw. So there you go. That's my bit about me. I can see that Olivia, my guest, is already here. So let's get on and introduce tonight's guest. As always, this is a real person with real thoughts and feelings. So please use your judgment and be aware that there may be triggering subject matter. And if you are a prick, I will block you. Okay? So tonight's guest is Olivia Olson, everybody. Olivia is an actor, voice actor, musician and songwriter whose face is most recognisable perhaps as an 11-year-old in Richard Curtis's 2003 classic Christmas film, Love Actually, as the voice of an angel, Joanna Anderson. However, it is that voice which has dominated much of her career since, with iconic performances in Disney's Phineas and Ferb and as the sharply sarcastic Vanessa Doofenshmirtz, Bliss in Cartoon Network's reboot of the Powerpuff Girls, and her fan favourite Decade, starring as Marceline the Vampire Queen in trailblazing post-apocalyptic fantasy series Adventure Time. During her time acting in these animated series, she has written and performed music in character, but also released music, including the album Nowhere Land, which, by the way, I've been listening to all week since I knew she was coming on. And it is so beautiful. It's the most amazing album. I know she's got an amazing voice, but the songs are just lovely. And my favourite song, I did a little story before, it's called Los Angeles. It's great. So I'm very excited to be speaking to her tonight about all things, her career, what she's been up to. Please welcome my first guest of 2021 and my first person from the States that's based there.
Hey, April!
Hey! Oh my god, look at you with your neon behind you!
I know, we're twins. We really are.
I love that! Oh my god, yours is slightly more pop appropriate though, perhaps. Is that a Batman insignia?
It is. You know what? I actually found this in the Halloween section, but it's so fitting for my vampire aesthetic.
That's nice. That's nice. I like that. How are you doing? I mean, it's obviously midday for you, so is it lunchtime?
Yes.
What are we having?
I just had avocado toast, very Los Angeles of myself.
Nice. Well, you've got to be in your own stereotype, right? So
100%.
as a Brit, I'm supposed to be having some alcohol in this, but alcohol free until probably tomorrow, let's face it.
Was that your resolution? Just to kind of cut back a little bit?
I feel like we always try and do dry January, but now that we're probably going back into a lockdown, I think the Brits really just do best when they're drunk. So
this year does not count.
Do we mean 2021? Because I think we're only 4 days into that one, babes.
Yeah, both years
okay,
don't
great.
count.
Fine. They're one and the same. They're one and the same.
Totally.
Okay. So I've got about 1,000 questions for you. So let's dive straight in. My first question is, Olivia, are you Joanna from Love Actually?
the 10-year-old version of me is yes.
Of course, of course. So in the UK, Love Actually is now a classic Christmas film, although I would say slightly problematic for perhaps for a modern female audience. Um, is it the same in the States? Like, is it as big a deal as it is here?
No, I feel like the movie has kind of just recently started to re-catch on. I know it's massive in the UK. I feel
It's
like
crazy.
Americans don't care as much about it. We have our like tried and true Christmas classics, like Home Alone and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I don't think people like dissect it under a microscope as closely as the Brits do.
Okay. Well, I mean, it is a huge, huge deal for us in, I guess, the same way that Home Alone is. Although we do buy into the Home Alone thing too. Don't think that we're not watching Macaulay Culkin as a 10-year-old. I mean, think about imagine him as a guest on this show. That would be interesting, right?
Are you Kevin from Home Alone?
Exactly. Exactly.
He'd be like, no.
No, I'm 40 years old. So was Love Actually, you were 10 when you did it, right?
Yes.
So was that your first job?
It was the first thing I ever auditioned for, the first thing. So the fact that I booked it was like unheard of, but you know, didn't book anything after that. That's kind of
Yeah.
how it goes. It's like one in every auditions you book, and it just so happened to be my first one.
Yeah. And what a first one to have. Like, did you have to sing in the audition? Presumably.
I did, yes. And there was no realm where I thought I was even going to get a call back because I actually sang. You could kind of hear through the wall what the other girls before you were singing, and they all sang like the three or four girls before me sang the exact same song that I had prepared, which was Fallen by Alicia Keys.
Nice.
So I was like, great, now I'm going to go in there and sing the same song that they have heard 10 times in a row. But apparently my version worked.
Well, apparently so. But I don't know if you know, but you're in the film, so it worked.
Kind of blocked that part out of my life. No, I'm kidding.
Okay. Well, let's before we talk about that. So just a tiny bit of background, what you were like as a 10-year-old. Did you always want to be a performer? Obviously, your dad was in the industry. My dad is also in the industry. So
Really?
well, not in the same way. My dad was in the locations department on a soap here that was very long running, is still long running. But your dad, did he have any influence? Did he ever say to you, "Don't do it"?
Oh yeah, his influence was absolutely not, don't get into the industry. My mom and I kind of went behind his back and found an agent
Wow,
and
wow. So
started
by the
going
time it
on.
happened, it was too late.
Yeah, it was like, oh, by the way, we're flying to New York next week because Olivia has a callback.
Wow, nice.
But it's funny though because through that defiance, I actually work very closely with my dad now on a lot of writing projects and animated things. So it worked out.
Yeah, and I suppose there's no once you find that someone has actually got a talent, there's no denying it really. And I think you know so much of this industry is not about talent, but it's having that kind of tenacity and the just blind determination to just keep going. And that is
Hmm.
definitely something that you've done. I would assume, bearing in mind what we're about to get onto. Um, so this series obviously is focusing on what happens to a person's life when their first job. I mean, obviously, I was a lot older than you when I had my first job, but your first job was as a child, and it's basically discussing what it's like to be constantly brought back to that about
Yeah.
questions always about being a 10-year-old and people expecting you to have something new to say or really not engaging in your like you're in your late 20s, like you're a full woman. And
Yeah,
there's that weird disconnect between who you are now and who you were. And just
absolutely.
what's your experience been like with that?
Well, it's really interesting. It's funny that you say that of like, oh, how this great thing you did when you were 10, because that's sort of been my whole life is trying to live up to I will never be as impressive as I was in Love Actually, you know? And I think I've like even more so this last year in 2019 by going on a certain reality show, kind of magnified that for me because it's like everybody was expecting me to be that little girl who could sing so well. And it's like anything I do at, you know, 27 years old is not going to be as impressive as how I could sing when I was 10.
So you're
So,
talking about your appearance on the X Factor in the US.
yes.
Okay. Okay. What made you decide to do that?
um, a lot of things. I definitely was at a point in my career where I did feel like I wanted to focus very much so just on music. And I didn't really know how to make that transition from working in animation for 10 years and being so solidified as this character. It's funny I feel like for the Brits, they see me as Joanna from Love Actually, but here in the US, like I personally, from my experience, cannot not be called Marceline the Vampire Queen from Adventure Time. So I was trying to sort of find a way of like, how can I step away from that title where it's like people know her and they don't know me. And then this opportunity kind of presented itself to me where it was like, wow, okay, I never really thought I would go on reality television, but what a kick in the pants that would be to kind of strip that away. So that was kind of my motivation there. Of course, it didn't really go as planned, but
Yeah.
at the time, it seemed like a really easy jump start to just sort of shed those layers and be like, this is Olivia, the singer, not Marceline or Joanna from Love Actually.
Do you feel like that was achieved though, as much as your performance, you know, was whatever it was, and your success on the show is whatever it was? Do you think that that people saw you for you, and do you think that's important when you're trying to be a musician? No, no. Okay.
Well, it's just because reality TV is not reality, you know?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
really interesting to sort of see those ins and outs and how you're portrayed and how,
Completely. Yeah.
yeah. So
It's
I
all
wouldn't
edited
say,
together. I often think
yeah,
like, should I do one of those, you know, Celebrity Jungle or like whatever? But actually, because I'm like, you need to see me as me, but it's not. It's how the producers want me to be seen. So,
yeah.
and also, I don't want
Yeah.
to eat the bugs. So,
Oh my God, no. I actually really got into that get Celebrity Get Me Out of Here when I was in the UK filming
oh my
X
God, it's
Factor.
absolutely great to watch it.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, but maybe not to be in it. So I guess once Love Actually had happened, you've got a bit of a hiatus in your resume, and then you start your voice work. Was that circumstantial or was that a choice?
It was a little bit of both. I definitely booked a little, like a few one-off kind of small TV roles after Love Actually, and I sort of dove into, you know, I had a lot of like record deal offers and things like that, but it just kind of seemed like everything kept falling through the cracks. Like nothing was really taking off at that point after the movie had come out. Um, Also, I think a big part was people were calling me out on auditions and expected me to be that cute 10-year-old girl. And like a few years had passed since it came out, and like, you know, a lot can happen between 10 and 12 for a young
Right.
lady.
Yeah.
So it just there wasn't anything that was really sticking. And then of course there was just sort of like the personal becoming a teenager, losing interest, and um you know, voice acting kind of came about in a way that I didn't really expect it to, but it totally shifted my mindset on um how I could still be in the industry but not like fully. I'm sorry, I'm getting like, I have to turn off my group chat. It's like going in. But a way to like come be part of the industry but not have it consume your life, you know?
And how long did it take for you to? Was it Phineas and Ferb? Was that the first voice my WhatsApp's going mad now. I think it's because in the UK, I think we've gone into tier 5, which means we're locked down. So I think all of my friends are like, no.
Oh my
Ugh.
gosh.
Yeah, I think that's literally just happened, like live reporting. Although, don't quote me in case it hasn't. Yeah. Good
What
old
is going on in the
coronavirus.
world? What
I
is
know.
going on in the world?
I know. Yeah. So anyway, bad luck, everyone. We're all here on a Monday night trying to forget about it, though. So let's be plowing on. Um, so I guess what my question was how far into your first voice job did you realize that the creativity and I guess the joy, the buzz of performing was still there without you actually having to have your face out there, I suppose, and the fact that you have grown up.
Yeah. It was kind of this cool, like, secret thing I feel like I was doing because I took such a step back from acting and I just sort of went about it and I didn't really tell my school friends about what I was doing. It just was this after school kind of cool thing. I actually got involved in the show because the creators of Phineas and Ferb are family friends, and they just brought me in to be a session singer, to sort of sing backgrounds and jazz up some of the other singing parts. And so, I mean, I really owe it to Dan Povenmire and Swampy Marsh, who created the series, because they're like, you are so talented. And, we have you coming in here to like make some of these Disney stars like sound better. And why aren't you doing this? And so they actually wrote me in as a part. And I really had no voice acting experience before that, but luckily I was just playing like a snarky teenage girl, which I was at the time. So it
Tricky,
worked.
tricky.
Yeah.
So I guess, did that then make you think, okay, I want to stay in this world? Like, this is what I want to do? I think I know the connection between Adventure Time, perhaps. There's a lot written about the fact that your dad was asked if he knew the person who played the character in Phineas and Ferb, and then he was like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it was
actually my
weird.
daughter.
It was a super weird coincidence, where my dad knew through mutual friends the creator of Adventure Time, Penn Ward, and they were like out drinking, a bunch of writers, and he was like celebrating the fact that his show got picked up. And he's like, there's a girl who works on your show. She kind of has the vibe of this character, and do you have her contact info? And my dad's like, yes, I have the contact info. I pay for that phone.
Yeah.
And it just was this really strange coincidence. So Penn actually ended up writing in my dad as Marceline's dad in the show.
Yeah.
And it was really cool because through that, like, Adventure Time gave me also this really cool opportunity to start writing some projects for Cartoon Network. So my dad, the writer, became a voice actor on the show, and then, me, the voice actor, became a writer. So that was really cool.
That is really cool. I feel like that is kind of, in a way, sums up what, when people ask me, like, what advice do you have for being in the, a young person in this industry? I I think so much of it is being in the right place at the right time, and
Totally.
that circumstance right there is responsible for the last 10 years of your paychecks, technically.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously
And
you are incredibly talented and that's what put you there in the first place, but certainly there is some definite golden ticket luck to be had in that situation.
absolutely. And I also think, I mean, my biggest advice that I give people when they're like, how do I become a voice actor? How do I get into this and get into that? Every person I've talked to has such vastly different ways that they broke in. But
Yeah.
I mean, my number one thing all the time is like surround yourself with creative minded people who also want the same things as you. Because if you guys are all on the same page, coming up together, you really don't know the power of like knowing the right people. It just
Yeah.
is, because if you are putting yourself out there and putting yourself in situations where you are surrounded by other creatives, when their show gets picked up, guess who they're calling? You. And then vice versa, when your show gets picked up, guess who you're calling? Them. And
Yeah.
it's all about those people who, on a personal level.
Mm. And I think for me, when I had a hiatus after Skins, I was kind of like, oh, I don't know what to do. I expected the jobs to just be rolling in and that I would be, you know, my phone would be ringing off the hook. And I kind of moved away, I think, from surrounding myself with creative people. And now that I'm doing that, it just feel like you say, everyone's sort of working towards a common goal. And you
Yeah.
realize that it is work. Like, you do have to cultivate the stuff that you're doing. And like you say, if you're writing things, you're in the mindset of creating something for yourself as opposed to just waiting for that phone call.
Yeah. Why did you sort of remove yourself?
I think it was two things. One was I was probably I think I was just too nervous. And I think when I was meeting with agents in London, a lot of them were saying like, you need to move to London, and you know, and I don't think I was ready. I was in a relationship and I put that first,
Hmm.
and I also just didn't have, like I said, I didn't have the mindset, or maybe the kind of management at the time, to be like, you need to just go for it now, like
Yeah.
hit the ground running, go everywhere, do everything, like be
Hmm.
seen at the parties, go to all of the meetings, otherwise like tomorrow you're chip paper. So
That's a full-time job in itself too.
yeah,
Just
completely.
being seen.
Yeah, it's that thing of like hanging on to being relevant that's so
Hmm.
difficult. And like, it's, you know, some people are incredibly talented and they do get lucky and they get incredible work, but so many of the people that I'm speaking to, and actually that's one of the things that's so cathartic about this experience, is everyone who I'm speaking to felt like they were at the cusp or on the cusp at a certain point, and then it feels like you've already said it in this conversation. I will never be as good as I was when I was 11. You said
Yeah.
that, and that mindset is absolutely crazy, because there are hundreds of people on here who not only identify with your work that you're doing now as a 28-year-old, but are making life decisions about their
Yeah.
sexuality because of the work that you're doing.
That's
So
so
it's so
true.
crazy how we've been kind of, I've been speaking for so long, but you can tell I'm passionate about it. But like, you are,
No, I
you know,
agree. I
we
agree.
have
I
that
mean,
thing.
yeah. It's not that I personally don't think I'll ever be as good as I was when I was 10, but it's just coming from an aspect of how high the bar has been set for expectations of myself
Right,
being a 10-year-old.
right.
Um, it's very hard to reach that again.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's like an industry thing, people on the outside looking in, obviously making that comparison. Certainly with the singing, that was so brave of you to go and be like, hi, I'm an adult now and I still have this incredible singing voice, come at me. But I do also think it is a mindset. Like, so many of my guests have been saying like things like, it was the first job you did. You can only ever have the first one once.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's like your first love. You'll
Totally.
compare every relationship to that.
Yeah, totally. Um, so let's get back to your voice acting, because that is, and full disclosure, I have never seen Adventure Time until I started researching this. And my sister and her boyfriend love Adventure Time. I mean, I was shook by the fandom of Adventure Time and of Phineas and Ferb, but certainly of Adventure Time and certainly of Marceline. Like, it is
It has such a
crazy.
cult following. It's
I
so
mean,
crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's also, I feel like even just watching the few episodes that I've watched, I think the thing that Adventure Time has done is that um, it just captures an entire spectrum of an audience. Like, it's a cartoon primarily, so it's therefore visual and visceral for a younger audience, but the discussions, the conversations, the subplots, the plots are all, you know, deep enough and funny enough and dark enough for an adult audience to connect with as well. And I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm thinking that's why it's still being found by such a spectrum of people. Would you say?
Totally. I mean, the concept of the show in general too is such this like
Oh my god, look,
vast
homogenic. Sorry
ex
to interrupt you. I literally have Marceline's bass axe tattooed on me.
Ah, me too. Hey.
Oh my god! There you go. homogenic. There you go. Sorry to interrupt you. That was a great flow. Carry on.
No, I love that. But yeah, I mean the world of Adventure Time and Ooh, which is like where it takes place, is so expansive. So it really is like this kind of cool take on life of just how anything is sort of possible. And there's so many characters. So I feel like that's kind of why the show is so close to so many people, because there's one character that everybody can resonate with so well, because
Yeah.
there's just like thousands of them.
Yeah.
Really.
And they keep on coming.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, obviously I'm sure you can't talk about anything that's coming up, but loads of the questions are like, are you ever gonna do another, spin-off series? Or
I
you've
hope
talked a
so.
bit, well, yeah.
We all hope so as actors.
Of course, yeah. I've seen you talk a little bit about parallels between your life, or you as a person, and Marceline, and particularly when it comes to writing the songs. I think that you draw on some of your own experience. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Well, yeah, I actually don't write the songs. The writers of the series, specifically a woman named Rebecca Sugar, was huge, huge, huge in sort of
Hold
writing
on, I think
Marceline's.
someone's written a question about that, so that answers your question. Who are you? Where are you? Queen Rizzo, I love and admire you very much. How involved are you in the process of creating the music? So there you go. That answers that.
That answers that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Rebecca was so huge in sort of creating Marceline's like musical voice. But it is very strange how like life imitates art and vice versa. A lot of the things that my character has gone through in the series were things that I didn't even realize I maybe needed to face in my own life. So of course hers are a little more crazy because she's like a demon vampire who's lived 1,000 years in a post-apocalyptic wasteland. But aren't we
Relatable.
all
Haven't we all?
relatable? But just her relationships with, her upbringing and family, and disconnect and connections and all that are things that I completely have gone through as well in my personal life and family, just being adopted and not really fully understanding like where you come from, and why you are the way that you are. Especially this latest spin-off Distant Lands that just came out, like really dives deep into her past about just some of her, childhood trauma of like what happened with my mom, and why did she leave me, and things like that. And it's like, dang, I didn't even realize I needed to like do like think about these things, but Marceline is forcing me to think about these
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
and coming to terms with them. So it's really strange, but I think that's why her as a character is so it's so relatable, because it's relatable as hell to me.
Yeah. And I think that must be something that, because you are so connected with the material, I mean, obviously any actor can conjure something like that, but I feel like because you are so connected with the material as an actor, there may be something in that where you're at a Comic Con. I mean, that's one of my questions. What I've seen you do multiple Comic Con events, but you must have so many memorable moments with a fan, like somebody, tonight saying, "I have a tattoo of Marceline's guitar on my arm." Like, can you think of the most memorable time you've come into contact with someone and they've maybe you've made an impression on them?
Yeah. Well, I think there's two that I've two kind of statements that I've had many times, which is just like every time I hear it, it like tears me up inside just as much as the first time that I heard it. But so many people have told me that Marceline is one of the reasons that they've come out of the closet and realized that they were gay or bisexual. So that is such an honor to be a part of people's discovery. And I think being an actor, you don't really get to see that impact until somebody comes up and tells you that, because it's all kind of fun games on a set, and you're in like work mode, and you don't really feel the finished product the way that it might be to a fan. Um, and then the other is there's a storyline in the series where her relationship with a character called Ice King, he kind of shows signs that are similar to like Alzheimer's. And so I've also had people come up to me and say that seeing that relationship and how they can still sort of uh, be there for each other, even if he might not know why he's there for her, has helped them come to terms with, you know, a parent or grandparent that was going through memory loss. So
Wow.
I did not think in a million years by, you know, being a part of a cartoon as tripped out and crazy and silly as Adventure Time that I would be having those discussions with fans. So it's really cool.
I mean, in a way, would you say that in terms of your identity as a performer, the 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 idea that you could never recreate yourself as a 10-year-old in Love Actually, would you say that what you're doing now is probably more fulfilling, in fact? And although it's not, you
Yeah.
know, you know, you could say people think you're having this weird break. Like in a tabloid, it might be like, where's she gone? You know, how many times have we seen where are they now? And it's like, you know,
Yeah.
because your face isn't in the cartoon, people think you've
Yeah.
just gone quiet.
And I think that kind of goes back to what you were saying before of like, you know, getting your face out there and being at the parties and the desire to stay relevant. Um, I lost that. So for me, doing the voiceover work and having those conversations with fans where what I've done is so impactful
Yeah,
is way better than some, you know, party or recognition of like, oh, she's still hot and relevant, you know?
yeah,
So
totally, totally.
absolutely, absolutely, it's very, very much more fulfilling than although Love Actually is great. You don't feel that impact, I think, when you're 10 of the scale of what you're doing.
I mean, of course, like when I was 17 and prancing around on telly in a tiny skirt and taking drugs and doing alcohol, I was, you know, there was no point where I thought, well, in another 12 years' time, people are still going to be finding this show when they're at their formative teen years, when they're discovering their identity and relating to it. I mean, there
Yeah.
was no doubt in my mind that we were doing something cool, but I never thought it was going to be a cult, the cult that it is.
Yeah. So you were 17 when you were filming Skins?
Yeah.
That's so cool. I mean, I can't imagine what that must have been like being that impressionable age and making such an impression on young people too.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I've said before, but it was like, I think when you're that age, you just think that everything's like, you know, that you can do anything. You know, you don't have that consequence receptor in your brain where you're like, oh God, this could look a certain way, or maybe I shouldn't do that. So you kind of just get on with it. And certainly for me, I thought I was just being a professional and doing what I was told, and I never thought well, this could be problematic for me in the future.
Oh my God. I'm so glad that when I was that age, I was like out of any type of spotlight.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
I can't imagine what that would have been like.
well, it was weird. It was weird, and I think through doing this series, I have also in a way that you have with Marceline, perhaps, been uncovering and coming to terms with that kind of decade of my life where I was thinking I was mixed up in somebody else's life, perhaps.
Huh.
Weird. We need to get on to some questions that people have asked you because I have had many,
Okay.
many questions, and they are really, really good, and I want to make sure we've got some time for them. So, um,
Absolutely.
Buyer.lesser wants to know what has been the impact of voice acting, particularly in Adventure Time, on your life, and who was your favourite character to voice act?
Saying favorites is like it's so hard because I think you connect to each character in a certain way, and you know, you look at it as a whole of like the crew that you worked with and all
Of
that.
course.
But I mean, I definitely resonate the most with Marceline, and I've had the most like range with her. So,
I mean,
of
you've been
course,
performing her for it is 10 years, right?
yeah, yeah, which is
So,
wild.
yeah,
So
that's a lot.
definitely Marceline. But I think the impact of that is just kind of going back to what I was saying before of like I
Yeah.
didn't realize how much her story would kind of help me with my own story.
Yeah, amazing. Um, underscore Gem DC underscore. What was it like to work alongside Thomas Brody Sangster again when you did the little Red Nose Day Love Actually bit, and obviously in Phineas and Ferb? And
Oh
did you
yeah.
enjoy doing that?
It was so surreal doing that. Definitely a little nerve-wracking, especially because Richard Curtis played a prank on me for the Red Nose Day special where
That little scamp.
I know I really was in town for like 48 hours or something to film that. So right when I got off the plane, we like went to wardrobe fitting, and Liam Neeson and Thomas were both there, and Richard. And he pulls me aside. So we had our little reunion or whatever, and that was really nice. But he pulls me aside. He goes, "Okay, Olivia, we made a slight tweak to the script that I want to make sure you're okay with. We actually are going to end the scene with you guys sharing a kiss." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And so all night I was like, okay, like mentally preparing for that because it wasn't in the script initially. And I was like, oh my God. The next day he's like, oh, I was totally kidding. I just wanted to see your reaction.
See, because of what I've been through, I would be like, right, where's my claws? How do excuse me, I wasn't supposed to be performing a sexual act this time.
Yeah.
That's mean. That's
Oh,
mean.
it was a little mean, but no, it was all in good fun. And I was relieved that I didn't have to go through with it because I was like, I haven't even done any like real on-screen acting in many years, let
Yeah.
alone kissing somebody who's now this huge star,
Yeah.
even though he was my first kiss ever. So it's kind of
Oh,
like been there, done that, but
oh
that was
God, so
nerve-wracking.
cute. Oh my God. Very, very cute. Bless you. Crusty.Spanish. When working on Adventure Time, who is your biggest homie?
Oh, definitely Jeremy Shada, who plays Finn, and Jessica DeChico, who played Flame Princess. We did so many Comic Cons together throughout the years, and we were the closest in age, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
out of the bunch. So we had a lot of fun times.
So when you're I was going to say shooting, recording the series, are you in the booth together or do you have to be separate?
On Adventure Time, yes, we were all together, and I think that makes such a difference as far
Oh,
as
must do, yeah.
cast camaraderie goes. On Phineas and Ferb, for example, we recorded all separately.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I only met some of the other cast members like because we had to do a Comic-Con panel together,
Right.
and like you get those questions of like, oh, like what is it like outside of work, and I'm like, I literally met you
Yeah,
today.
they seem fine to me.
Yeah. But yeah, with Adventure Time from day one, we were all together every episode, so that makes such a difference.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. Because also you can when you're in the moment doing a scene, you must be able to like riff off each other and maybe ad lib something that maybe wouldn't be there before. That would
And I
make a
I
massive difference.
learned so much too. I think the major difference of that from Phineas and Ferb was like I really was sort of like playing myself as Vanessa Doofenshmirtz, but then with Marceline, there's like a whole other side to her as a character where like I have to do like demon voices and monster. She like can shapeshift into like anything.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that until I had to do it, and like working alongside some of these biggest voice actors in the business who like can do any sound, any voice, whatever, taught me so much on just sort of how to like let go and like tap into that weird side.
Yeah. And also you can, I suppose it's the same with Love Actually in a way, but being surrounded by actors who've been in the game for such a long time, you have to raise the bar. Like there's no
Mm-hmm.
question. You just, one of those actors would be doing a weird voice and or a strange sound and you're like, okay, well, I can do that too. Whereas if you weren't being challenged by someone who's so experienced, you may not have
Yeah.
realized that you could do that crazy voice.
Totally. And now it's definitely like took down a wall with me where I have, you know, ventured out and tried different things and auditions and like have started booking roles that are have accents and other things
Yeah.
when from the get-go I was just kind of doing my regular speaking voice.
Well, that's what experience
Yeah.
teaches you. Um,
Yeah.
Queen Rizzo, what was your reaction when you found out that Marceline would potentially have a queer storyline? And of course, there's someone else. And three, Lily, what? I didn't know that she was the voice actor for Marceline in Adventure Time. Damn, she really helped me figure out my sexuality. So
Oh,
that
I'm
was a
so
little two-parter.
glad. Yeah, I'm so glad. I was really excited. So much so that I kind of like spilled the beans, uh, which I was not supposed to do, just because, you know, I was told at the time that they probably weren't going to touch on that subject, but it was like part of her character development that they wanted to let me know. Um, so yeah, don't out people before they're ready to come out because I kind of did that. But I was so excited, and I, in a weird way, think that by me doing that may have sort of pushed the show to maybe go that direction because it was
Yeah.
perceived so well.
Well, yeah, and that, in a way, thank God you did do that because it does seem like, I mean, obviously I'm a very small part of this fandom, but the people that have reached out to me and talked about how seeing that queer storyline evolve and also the open-endedness and the fact that, you know, we don't know 100% all of the ins and outs of it, it was is, you know, basically made them look at their own sexuality and their own identity, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Although don't out
It's
people before they're ready.
don't out people
Sidebar.
before they're ready. But in my defense, I was kind of outing myself, so kind of is okay. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, that's okay. Um, Mini Hiado, Mini Haido. I'm so excited. My question to Olivia is, what lessons have you learnt, if any, from working alongside directors on Adventure Time?
You cut out in the middle there. What lessons have you learned? Adventure Time.
Beep.
Yeah.
um, I guess it's kind of what you were saying before, but have you learnt any lessons from the actors, the more experienced actors that you worked with in Adventure Time?
Yeah, and I think it is that kind of major one of not really caring how crazy you look, um, by just kind of going for that weird, out there, demonic sounding voice. But it's really cool to kind of see them do what they do because for me, I just initially always felt like, oh, I'm going in and I'm reading the lines and I'm acting them, but um, it wasn't until working alongside these like seasoned veteran voice actors where I really saw that voice acting was this whole like vast, like super crazy talent that these people have cultivated. And then, of course, just trying to like discover that within myself of how I can, you know, broaden my sort of range
Yeah,
with all that.
it's such a gift. I just think I love working with people who I admire. It's just the most fun. Um, Homogenic, what was your favourite memory that you've made as a voice actress?
There's so many. My favorite memory, I genuinely think it's getting to act with my dad.
Oh, lush.
Yeah, it was such a weird, cool parallel thing to play father and daughter and be father and daughter. And um, he was only in maybe like 3 episodes of this series, but it was so cool for kind of him to come into my work environment and sort of like see me in that space and then share that with him,
Yeah.
because he was such a huge part in me getting to that place in my life. So
Mhm.
I think that was like a very full circle cool thing.
Really cool. Um, the Queen of Darkness 25. Will you be releasing any more of your awesome music?
Yes, I am. I feel like quarantine has been very much so dedicated to that because we can't really do much.
Right.
So I've been building out my little home studio here and, figuring out ways to like work with my producers remotely and do that. So I'm actually waiting to hear some final mixes back on a few new songs this week.
How exciting. That's so amazing that you've managed to stay creative and not gone into like a hellhole of fear and pain about the virus.
Oh, well, it comes in waves.
Okay, okay, okay.
There's like
That's
the black holes of despair, but then it makes for really good emotional lyrics. So,
of course, of
yeah.
course. I didn't think of that. So do you have a studio that you can record in at your house?
I do. My little, like, I have it right here. Whew.
Ta-da! And we're
With my
done.
little my little dust rag so it doesn't get crusty.
Yes.
Yes, hopefully, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out like I think my problem with my last release that I did is I didn't really like think about doing any visuals or like promotion or things like that. So I want to be a little bit more strategic about it this time around to see if I can build a little bit of traction, but
Yeah.
who knows?
That's exciting. And I presume your experience with the last one and your experience just now being an adult and being more in your power, you can kind of choose the way that you want to do that. Like, will you have control over, videos or like producing some of it? Obviously, you've written on it, and I hear so often like musicians being like, I didn't want to do that song, but it sounds like there's none of that for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's like the blessing and curse of not being signed.
Yes, of course.
It's like you do have to kind of come up with everything as far as like, the budget and paying people and creative direction. And you don't have a full team of, record industry people who are telling you, like, yes, this is good or no, that sucks.
Yeah.
But it's great because you don't have a bunch of record industry people telling you that's
Totally,
great or
you're
that
so right.
sucks.
Blessing and curse for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
But there are, there is. I mean, I don't know if you know of a UK singer called Jacob Collier. Like, he won some Grammys, and he
Really?
records his music in his basement. Oh no, in his bedroom in the UK. Like, he sings and
Really?
plays about 100 instruments and records it all from his bedroom in North London. Check him out.
And I think yeah, I will, but I love that because I think that is such a thing that some of the record labels don't really see is they see what has worked and then they try to like replicate that
Yeah,
in a new way, in a new fresh way, but it's all kind of the same shit. And
yeah,
then they see someone who comes out of the blue who's totally original and people just love that. And so then that takes off. But then the record industries are like, okay, well, how do we replicate that? And how do we do that? And it's just funny. And I think part of my experience, like doing X Factor and stuff like that too, is really it helped me kind of like push myself as a performer, but it was also like wow, there's so much that goes into something that I would have never even thought of, but this team of people are thinking like 17 million steps ahead of me.
hmm
And I don't even know if it's the right decision for me, but okay, let's do it.
yeah, yeah. And at least, well, I for one have loved listening to that record, and I'm very, very excited to hear that there is some more music coming, and there have been lots of people who've been asking for music from you, and of course, you know, I hope that that happens for you. And I would say that even if it doesn't, get that kind of, I don't know, traction or recognition or whatever it is, I think if anything, if like your experience and if mine has, in this sort of weird world that we exist in, is just you got to keep going.
You got to keep going.
And if
And
you're a
I think,
musician, it's in you, right? You can't turn it off.
yeah, I was with my last album that I did, I was so worried and I kept just like putting off putting anything out because it's like, oh, I'm just not 100% happy with this or that. And it's like, I was hindering myself by doing that, by trying to be too much of a perfectionist
hmm
because at the end of the day, like you're always going to want to change something, but putting out nothing is stupid when you're putting in so much work towards
Yeah.
something, and then it's just, oh, it's not perfectly right, or I don't know if people are going to accept it or like it or whatever. It's like, no, just put it out. Just put it
Mm.
out.
And also, art is so subjective, whatever medium it is. So there will be people listening to that and hearing perfection. There will be listeners who are like, what is this trash? And then there will be some people who are like, yeah, well, I would have maybe done some strings instead of a piano or whatever.
Yeah.
So you can never please people. I suppose you just got to dance to the beat of your own drum.
Yeah, and I think it was tough too because singing for a character like Marceline, who's so beloved and has such a specific style, which is really Rebecca Sugar's style, who wrote so many of her songs. It was, I think, a big kind of shock and shift of people hearing my stuff and it being nothing like that.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, okay, you know, how do you bridge that gap? How do you
Mm,
play into what your fan base loves you for, but then still be true to yourself? Because when I sing as Marceline, I'm singing as a character. That's
totally.
not even my tone or my style of singing. So then when they hear like Olivia stuff, they're like, that doesn't even sound like Marceline.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, well, I hope not.
Well, when you found out how to cultivate a following from fans who love you for something other than yourself, and and you've worked that, you've navigated that. Can you let me know? Because I feel like a lot
I
of the
have
time,
no idea what I'm doing. Yeah.
if it's not something to do with skins, like even people on here know, where's Tony? Who's Cassie? I love you, Nips. Like it's never ending. So I
Yeah.
feel like again, it's just you just got to be true to yourself and what your creation is at the moment or where you're at creatively, and just hope that the people who like the music you're putting out like that, because it's great, because it is.
Yeah. I had a friend who I was working with on some, social like YouTube videos and stuff like that. And he literally was like, you don't have to pay me if it's a Marceline video because it's going to blow up, but you have to pay me if it's an Olivia video because it's not
Yeah.
worth my time and money and
Oh,
energy.
oh my god, I mean, really harsh but true, like so true. It's so
Yeah.
horrifyingly true. It's just I mean, literally I can put a post up where it's me being like, look at my hair, and then the next day it's a post of me as Michelle, and it's like completely different in terms of likes, but it
Yeah.
is what it is.
Yeah.
To quote the quote of the year.
Well, that's why I absolutely love your show concept and everything when you reached out, because I was just like, oh my God. What you are doing is my life in a nutshell. And of course, like I would love to come on and talk about this because it is such like a real weird, strange, of course, like, oh, woe is me, I'm an actor and people only know me for the thing I'm famous for. But um, it's just such a bizarre feeling that not a lot of people realize is tough on actors.
Uh-huh. I'm glad. I'm really glad that you're here, and I'm glad that we've done this. And you've been fantastic. And thank you so much for being so candid about
Yes.
your questions and your answers. And we've loved having you. So thank you very much, Olivia
Thank
Olson.
you. Thank
You
you, April,
will.
aka Michelle. Real quickly, one of my best friends, Michelle, who we actually grew up and like watched Skins together, was so excited that I was coming on
Oh,
here to do
well,
this
hi,
with you.
Michelle from
Yeah.
Michelle. Oh, it's so lovely to meet you, Olivia, and have a good
Nice to
day.
meet you too. Good
I'll
luck
see
with
you
the
soon.
lockdown.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait to hear about what that news is. God. Great. 2021, everyone. Bye,
Woo!
Olivia.
Bye.
Oh gosh, what another brilliant guest, everyone. We've been so spoilt. Thank you so much to Olivia. What a brilliant insight. And yeah, if you do want to check out her music, it is beautiful. It's on all of the streaming sites. Do check her out, Olivia Olson. Um, Also, don't forget, you can catch up on my Instagram lives if you've missed out or you've joined this halfway through and you joined this halfway through, yeah, and you wanted to know what we were talking about. If you go to my Instagram live page and click on the IGTV tab, you can see all of my previous guests. I now have 18 episodes up there for you to binge and just zone out to if you want to. There have been some fantastic guests on there, and it really helps if you share them. So drop them a like, share them, tag me in any screen grabs that you take. It all really helps. And I'm in the process of turning Are You Michelle from Skins into a podcast. And we have our own Instagram page called Are You Michelle from Skins. Some of you have already noticed. I have posted so far absolutely nothing. So it's full of content. But, you know, we've got to start somewhere. And very soon there will be all the things that you need to know over there on that page. So I'm off to find out what the news is in the UK. Stay safe, everyone. Look after each other. Be kind. There is hope this year, at least. And I will be back next Monday for the penultimate episode of this series, episode 9. Cry. Thanks, Olivia. Thank you to everybody who was watching tonight. It was so great to see you all, and I will see you next Monday. Goodbye.